fight tonight.
What's going on, everybody? Jade up here. Today's video is going to be over Lair of Maareslok. I'll be going over the mechanics. For the ad pools, I'll be going over certain ads. Basically, the Lurcher and there's like a mage and like a two-hander and stuff like that. I'll go over those. And then everything else, I'm just going to go over the boss fights because the other ads are pretty simple. They're, spiders and bats and some things like that. And it's just very, very simple mechanics, things that you've seen in the past. The same with the lurches and stuff, but I kind of just want to hint on those. To kind of just let you know like what's going on with those. Like these right here, these bears and stuff like that. They're basic attacks. They just kind of basically scratch you and then do a cone attack. That's pretty much it. So I'll be going over these mechanics for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy. And if you guys want to, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, the like button. Let me know what you thought about these new dungeons down in the comment section below. I'll be also be doing the Moon Groove or whatever it's called. I'll be doing that one as well. Probably in the next week or so, or the next couple days, or something like that. Whenever we can get the group back together. This group we had here was Arc, Glitter, and Seven. All three of these individuals were super, super awesome, and I'm glad that Glitter Girl she put it together, put the group together, and much thanks to you three for that. That was super cool of you guys. So without any more talking, we're just gonna go ahead and cut to some of these parts, and hopefully you guys enjoy the video. Okay, and we are at the first boss. You're going to have to face Selene and two additional bosses. It's going to be a giant bear and then a giant spider. So first we're going to talk about Selene. She's going to teleport around and does a few different attacks. One of them you're going to have to interrupt. So you yourself or the healer is going to put on a crushing shock and just interrupt her when she has that growing AoE underneath her person, and you'll be able to see it as it's happening right now. There'll be also growing AoEs underneath players, so just move out of those or just hold block and continue to DPS. Now the bear does a few different attacks. They're pretty basic. Just sit there and hold block during the heavy attacks, and he'll also do a fear. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Also, I did forget to mention Selene will do a cone attack, so be sure to just stay in one spot, have everyone else help move away from you, and it should be fine. When this spider first spawns, have everyone move away because the spider will immediately attack one person, and it's a little bit annoying because by the time that you're able to get the taunt off, that spider is already doing a heavy attack. So there's nothing really you could do as a tank other than having everyone else move away and you being the only person there. Now this spider boss, all he does pretty much, or she, is spawn some little spider ads and just does their basic heavy attacks and stuff like that. Pretty simple fights, nothing too crazy. We have extraordinary DPS with Arc and Glitter there. They're both really good, and Seven's a really good healer, so we were able to knock this out pretty quick. And now we're going to move on to the Lurcher ad, which is coming up right here. Now, this Lurcher ad does a few different mechanics that we're going to be talking about now. As you can see, as he's doing a mechanic now, growing those AoEs underneath the people, and then doing a heavy attack. So just sit there and hold block during that phase. He does kind of hit a little bit hard, so just kind of watch out for that. Other than that, we're going to be talking about a few additional ads that are coming up here soon, which are ads you're going to have to DPS, have a shield over them. You'll have to DPS them. You have to DPS the shield off of that ad, and then you just move on to the next one and just continue with the dungeon itself. So we'll get into those here in a few seconds. Alright, here we are on the second boss. This boss right here is basically a giant lurcher, and we're going to talk about the mechanics here. He does basically the same exact mechanics of the other lurcher we just talked about. Spawns the AoEs and does a heavy attack, and basically that's about it. And that's pretty much all he does. and he continues to do that the entire time. Now, the only difference between this one and the actual Lurcher that you face throughout the dungeon is at 50% of the Lurcher, he will begin to spawn ads. Also, we have the dragon. As you can see, that it just did that line attack. If the Lurcher is in that line when that happens, it'll do it it'll make him enrage. As you can tell that it's red right there. But just DPS the Lurcher down. Just stay focusing on the Lurcher, and then as a tank, pull in the ads when the Lurcher is not doing a heavy attack, which he's about to do here. As you can see, boom, he does a heavy attack, pull in the ads, good to go. Don't stand in those AoEs, those little AoEs that are spawning as he's doing it right now. He pushes his hand up into the ground and spawns those AoEs. Just stay out of them. They drain your resources, and they're a little bit annoying anyway. So if you have to, just move the boss around. Just let them know, let your DPS know where you're going to be moving them to. Obviously, when we're moving them here, when we're moving this boss, it's kind of self-explanatory because we had that lion attack in front of us, and the only way to move is back or to the left a little bit. So, um, a little bit obvious there. And as you can see here, again, I'm just keeping them in the same spot because I seen the meteor dropped, and we're just going to keep them here because there's no point to move them. Other than that, that's pretty much it with this boss. Just try and stay in the one spot and DPS the ads down. This part's a little bit glitched. They're supposed to despawn, but they're still here. And yeah, just DPS the ads if they continue to spawn. Well, hopefully these mechanics kind of helped you out a little bit here. Just if you have enough DPS, you can just skip a lot of this stuff, and we have plenty of that. Any questions at all, be sure to leave them down in the comment section below, and we'll be sure to address them. All right, and we're going to be moving into one of the ads coming up, and we'll be talking about that here in a second. All right, and here is the ad that we were talking about earlier that I had mentioned. There's going to be a few of these different ads here. Big AoE coming out, just spread out, whole block right before he's going to spawn two of these Frost Astronauts. Tank, just pull them in. Bash the boss when you can, or the mini boss. Other than that, just everybody stay focused on that little boss right there, and then pretty easy. He has about roughly pretty close to about 1,000,000 health or a shield on there, so just kill the shield and then you're good to go. We're also going to be coming up on these I don't even know what to call them. They're like little beehive things that spawn the bee looking thing. These things right here, these hives. If you stand close to them, as you can see, you can bash them, and that's what I'm doing here. You see how that one, the AoEs are kind of growing around it. The one right in front of me is about to happen. I just bash it, and that's all you got to do there if you want to stack the ads on them. It's totally up to you if you want to stand right on top of them. I do just so everything can get cleaved down. If you have a DK, put on deep breath and just sit there and you're good to go. Here's another ad here. He has a two-hander, and these heavy attacks are really, really long. So if I were you and you're on console, just sit there and hold block, because some of them are super long heavy attacks, and some of them are really, really short. So it's either you're waiting 5 seconds for a heavy attack or you're waiting like 2 seconds. So I normally just sit there and hold block, and I don't even worry about it. I know that I have an add-on that tells me when to block or whatever. These add-ons are really, really nice. I don't really need them. It's mainly because so I can sit there and kind of read chat and do this and that, and I don't have to really pay attention too much to anything. Obviously, you still have to pay attention, but I don't have to pay attention as much. One, because I've been tanking for a long time, and you kind of get a feel for when things are about to happen. But these heavy attacks are really, really different. I'm telling you, when you first get in here and you're on Xbox, you'll see that you'll be like, what the hell? And you'll die by a few of them, I guarantee it. There was a couple times like I was on the PTS, and the heavy attack was coming, and usually it's about like about 2 seconds or three. So I wait a little bit, I dodge roll, and he's still charging up the heavy attack, and I'm like, what the hell? And he smacks me when I get out of dodge roll, and it just happens. This ad here, He's got the dual wields. This guy right here is obviously somewhat of a DK. When he talons you right there, you want to dodge roll out of that. And the reason why is because it does a crazy amount of damage to the DPS. So you want to be very, very careful on that part. All right, so we're pretty much going into the next boss here, which is basically a tree, and you got to kill these lurchers again. So basically here with these lurchers, they're pretty simple. All they do is they do your basic attacks. And then what they also do here is they do a ground slam or a foot stomp thing. And you'll see it here in a second, which he is about to do now. He does a foot stomp, and the AoE is so light colored you can't see it. Then once he dies, he's going to drop that seed. And what you need to do with that seed is roll into the tree right here and hit the synergy to pick up the seed and hit the synergy to drop it. And what I do as a tank here is I always take the Lurcher and put it on top of the tree. Everyone focuses the tree and cleaves down the Lurcher. That way, as soon as the tree gets a shield back on it, the Lurcher's basically almost dead, and all you got to do is pick up the seed and run right back into the tree with the Lurcher. Now this Lurcher does a different mechanic. As you can see, this cone attack. If you stand in it, you will more than likely get one shot unless you have enough health. I think it was above 50k that I had that made me survive it on the PTS. It might have changed since then, since the live server. Other than that, Stranglers will spawn if you have lower DPS. Stranglers will spawn, and if you do have that lower DPS, just have the DPS focus the Stranglers, and then basically focus ads and focus boss. That's a rule of thumb of everything. If you have lower DPS, always focus ads, then focus boss. It'll save you a lot of time. And then once you have ultis, ulti dump on the boss when you can. And that's pretty much it for that. And we'll be jumping into the next boss here in a second. All right, and we're back with the fourth boss, which is right before the last boss, Maarselok. And ironically, this one is Maarselok. So you're going to have these Horvers here. Just run into them. They'll explode. Don't have to worry about them too much. Basically, what happens is Selena's in the center. She's going to be sending up these green spiders to the left, and they're going to go and attack Maarselok. Maarselok's then going to fly down so you can damage him. That's the gist of the entire fight. Now, with that happening, these Horvers are going to spawn. As you can see, I just chained in 2 of them, and as long as you chain them in and you stand kind of next to them, they're going to explode. You don't have to focus them. What the DPS needs to do, though, is focus these Stranglers here that spawn up, and what I like to do is I have these blue orbs on, which do damage and which will aggro some of the ads. So if you throw one of those down and then throw down the blockade on where the Stranglers should be going, and they line up on the wall there, you just throw your blockade down and then throw a orb down further. That way, when they do spawn and come up, they'll automatically just start being aggroed. And then you're good to go. So basically, what happens? Selene spawns the green spiders, attacking Maarselok to knock him down from his pedestal, and basically, then the Stranglers will spawn to attack the green spiders. So you just gotta kill the Stranglers so that Selene could do her job. Now, as you can see, this enraged lurker spawns immediately from underneath Maarselok's booty hole. So when Maarselok raises back up, definitely have the DPS and call it out. Obviously, I was on mute. I muted myself on the stream here. But during the stream, I was like, "Hey, move back so you guys don't get hit when the red lurcher spawned." It's just so that because it immediately spawns up and it immediately attacks whoever's closest. So most of the time that's going to be a DPS. So if you have the DPS move back and the healer move back, you'll be able to grab that pretty quickly as soon as it spawns up. It's the same with the spider boss on the first round. It spawns immediately and then immediately starts attacking something, and it when it's attacking something, you can hardly taunt it. It just takes like a second. It's really really annoying, and it's a bit frustrating here. And again here, you do the same thing. Now this one took us a little bit longer, and obviously I guess I was like somewhat desynced here or something because I obviously dodge rolled it. Before whatever. Anyways, we end up recovering this and going through the fight. But you just want to make sure that you keep all the ads up, and if you're running around like Glitter Girl is here, trying to not get attacked by the Lurcher. um, she ended up having so much aggro on her during that fight, which just kind of sucked. If that wouldn't have happened, if I didn't die there, nobody probably would have died here. And unfortunately, we're just kind of like all over the place now. I'm trying to gain resources back and some stand back, all while trying to taunt and do a bunch of crap here. So if you're the only tank, if you're up in the DPS and you're trying to recover, the best thing that I can try and tell you to do is honestly just try and grab aggro of a little bit of much as you can. If you can handle taking aggro of literally everything in the arena, go ahead and do that. I was on my Nightblade tank here, and it's totally up to you if you can try and do that or not. Now, I didn't really talk about too much mechanics here, and some of the mechanics that happen. Maarselok will do a breath attack where you see all these AOE's coming. That happens every so often, and then he'll do a scream attack, and you'll hear his voice. And I wish I kind of would have kept the audio in so you guys could have heard it. But just listen for that cue when you guys actually go and fight this, and you want to make sure that you hold block when you hear him. You'll hear him yell out something, and you just want to block during that phase, and then immediately after that, so you basically just hold block when you first hear him scream, and then that's pretty much it. And then he'll do another like scream, and that's when the AOE's come. You'll be able to hear it. I wish I already deleted the audio, so I wish I could get it back and let you guys hear it. But I'll see if I can try and do that before I finish editing this video. All right, and that's pretty much it of this fight. Just basically DPS all the ads, DPS the boss. Try not to let those green spiders climbing up the wall get killed by the stranglers. That's pretty much it. Ulti bomb. If you have AOE ultis, definitely use them during these stranglers and all these other ads. And Maarselok should be coming down now. See, this fight could actually last a pretty long time if you don't end up, killing these stranglers and making sure that they're not attacking those spiders and making sure Selene in the center isn't getting hit by the Horvers. There's a lot to do here. And see, as you can see, Maarselok is down. He's at 55%, going down to 54. Just got to get him basically down to 51% or so, and then that's pretty much it. He ends up flying away. You complete the boss round here, and then you face him in the next round. And we'll be going over this next mechanic that's going to be happening. I'm going to see if I can try and get this audio back right quick so you guys kind of hear what's happening. Okay, and I ended up getting the audio back, so we're going to play that right here, and this is what it looks like. Alright, fuck. Okay, and so that is what the mechanic sounds like. It's the same thing. It basically screams roll dodge. That's what I heard. And so we first started roll dodging it, and then we were still getting knocked back. So we're just like, all right, let's just block it. And so that's what happened. So this mechanic that's coming up here, we'll be talking about it here pretty soon, and this is what's going to happen on the last boss. So you're really going to have to pay attention to this, and I'm going to try to explain it as easy as possible. So basically, what's going to happen, and I got lucky right there. So what's going to happen is you'll see that the screen gets darkened, right? And so what that basically means is that Maarselok is cursing somebody. And what that does is it curses somebody, and you'll see a if you're on Xbox or if you have like the basic, as you can see, the screen got darkened, and we're waiting for somebody to show who has it. And as you can see, the person in the far back, you see that dark mist that happened on him. That means that he has the curse, and basically what that means is there's going to be like a little pad, as you can see Selene has used to purify, and what that does is that purifies the curse, and so you can continue to, and nothing will be nothing will happen. If you do not cleanse it, if you don't cleanse the curse, what's going to happen is that a lurcher is going to deal some damage to you, if not kill you on vet, and a lurcher will spawn like one here, and it's just really, really annoying to deal with. And on hard mode and regular vet, it happens quite a bit on the last boss, and it's just super, super annoying to deal with Maarselok, the ads that spawn Selena, and the Lurcher and a dead body on the last boss if you're on hard mode here. So that's basically the mechanic, and we'll go into it a little bit more on the last boss, and I'll try to explain it like I did on stream. It's kind of a different mechanic that a lot of people have probably not dealt with before. I myself haven't dealt with this mechanic. It's kind of similar to Runes of Mazatoon, where you have a statue on hard mode that somebody can't see. Like it's basically like that. It's a little bit like that mechanic there, and we'll be talking about it. I'll try and explain it as easy as possible so everybody can understand what's happening, and give you guys different ways to call out the mechanic or said pad and whatnot. And we'll explain that all in a second. So I'll go ahead and jump to the last boss, and we'll go ahead and talk about that. Okay, so now we're at the last boss, and we activated hard mode. You can tell because Selena is infected. So let's talk about the mechanics. First thing you have is Maarselok. What he does is shoots projectiles at you. Just block those, and every couple 2 or 3 hits, you'll get a dot on you. You can purge it, but if you purge it, the damage coming from that will hit the other 3 players. If you are within range of Maarselok, he'll do a chomp attack, which is a charged up heavy attack. Just dodge roll that or block it. It's up to you. I personally like to dodge roll it. He'll also do a headbutt attack, so just obviously get out of that AoE as well. And then if you get too far left or too far right, he'll do a ring slash. And then, of course, here's another charged up heavy attack where he shoots a projectile at you. When the AoE fills up, just dodge roll it. It's really simple on that part. Another attack that he does is this mechanic here, where he shoots out a couple projectiles, 2 of them being what stranglers are, just basically DPS the ads and DPS the boss. When Maarselok does this move here, when he moves both of his wings up and then slowly starts to move forward, that's when you want to dodge roll to him, because then he'll charge towards you. And then he'll go through all the mechanics again, the headbutt, the chomp, the projectile throw. All while doing that, you yourself and the healer need to try and get the interrupt on Selene. Another attack that he does, which I'll get into a little later, and obviously slow that down, is a cone attack that he does. Maarselok, as you can see here it is. Basically, when the noise happens, he'll start to speak right before you need a dodge roll. Pretty easy to do that. So now we're going to break away into a image that I found online, and we'll kind of talk about what it shows there and what you need to do. Okay, and the image should be popping up here. So as you can see, you have 3 pads. There's one pad to the far right side, which is off to the cliff side. There's one on the far back, which is where the mountains are, and the one back where number one is at, and that's where the bridge is. Now, what you could do, honestly, is you could call it out like that. You could call bridge, cliff, or mountain, which Nervesa, one of my VIPs. In chat had mentioned before. But me personally, I like if you're looking at the boss, just call where the pad is if you're looking at it. So right now we're looking at the boss. We see one pad to the left, one pad to the right, one pad behind us, right? Because you're obviously not going to see pad one because it would be behind us, you would be closer to the boss. And if the boss is, if it swaps sides and it runs in between pads 1 and 3, pad 3 would be to the left of boss, pad 1 would be to the right of boss, and then pad 2 would be behind you because obviously you wouldn't be able to see that. I personally think it is easier that way to do it that way. Whichever way you're facing the boss, you call the pad out of that direction. So if you see a pad to the left of the boss, that's obviously to the left of the boss, and vice versa. So whichever way you're looking at the boss, that's the way you want to call the pads, or at least that's what I like to do. Now, here's how the seed works. He at 60%, and it's going to continue on from there on out. Maarselok will throw up a seed, and it'll land on the ground somewhere. What's going to happen is what I like to do is have my group, the 2 DPS or 3 DPS or the 2 DPS and healer, go grab the seed. You need at least 3 people to grab the seed. And what's going to happen is those 3 people are going to be able to see the pads light up. Now, one pad will light up per one person. So I have myself, Seven, Glitter, and Arc in the group. So Arc, Glitter, and Seven grab the seed, and they're all going to see one pad. Now, the way this works is majority wins. So if Glitter and Seven see pad 3, but Arc does not, Arc sees pad 1 or 2, that means that Arc needs to go to pad 3 to cleanse because majority wins. So let's just say that Glitter, Arc, and 7 all see pad 1. That means that I am infected and I need to cleanse on pad 1. The other 3 don't need to do anything but DPS the ads or the boss. So, again, I'm going to say this again as clearly as possible. Majority wins. So, if your group, the 2 DPS, see the same pads, call it out. The person who does not see the same pad as the other 2 has to go and cleanse on that pad that the 2 people seen. It's a little bit confusing, but is absolutely the easiest mechanic when you finally it clicks in your brain. I know some people are still not going to understand this, and that's fine. Some people pick up on mechanics a little bit slower than others, and and some people just suck at explaining, and I probably do. But again, 2 people see a pad, the third person goes to that pad. If all 3 people see the same pad, then the tank, because you're not picking up the seed, needs to go cleanse. Okay, so now that that is explained, I'm going to show you because we actually had Glitter CD seed. I pick up the seed, I see left of the boss. I say left of the boss. And then the other 2, they call out which pad that they see. Somebody else said left of the pad, so the person that said, to the right or back of boss, that person goes and cleanses. And as you can see, the 3 orbs that shoot across the ground, that means it was correct. So now when the flame comes, just dodge roll into the flame, because if you dodge roll backwards, sometimes you may not get it correctly and you'll still get infected. Now we're going into ad phase here. So periodically, basically every time you cleanse and basically anytime you do something, some ads are going to come out. So just be prepared to grab the ads. And whichever way the boss is about to charge, it's always going to charge towards the person it's aggro to, which should be obviously the tank. So keep in mind of that. You don't want him to charge over on top of a pad, because if you get underneath the boss, it will fear you, and that's going to waste a lot of stam. You will take more damage if you are underneath the boss, and also the boss will take more damage. It was in the hint box on the PTS, and we just never really, capitalized on that. Just didn't seem to make much sense to stand underneath the boss inside of him, his little AoE, because it would just be pointless. You wouldn't be able to do any damage. You'd be just sitting there constantly getting feared. So just keep that in mind when DPS in this boss. There's tons of AoEs coming out. Those little AoEs that are spawning now, those will CC you if you do not block them or get out of them. Now we're going back into the seed. I still need to pick it up because the glitter is still not back yet. I pick up the seed. I obviously do not see to the left of boss or to the right of boss. That is 100% behind me. That is 100% that the seed is behind me, and it is not to the left or right of me. Obviously, it's fucking common sense there, I think. So obviously, if I take the seed, I don't need to look back and be like, okay, it's behind me. So I automatically was just like, okay, behind boss, or behind back, or whatever I called. And as you can see, they got it. So now we're getting ready to charge again here. Again, just pay close attention to the mechanic that the boss is doing, and that's how you know where he's going, when he's going to charge. And I set myself up always so he charges in between two pads, never on top of a pad. And that way, we can continue to cleanse if it happens. If the boss ends up on one of the pads on hard mode, I say continue to do the mechanic, because the more repetition you have with this boss, the easier it becomes. Now continue. Now we have glitter back, so I don't have to go and get the seed anymore, and we should be fine. She actually ended up spawning in, and then her master merchant was kind of registering, so she wasn't able to really do anything. So that's why she ended up dying here. It was a little bit unfortunate, and it was kind of funny. She kept screaming, "Oh, my master merchant it won't stop." It was quite comical. So here's a quick mechanic that I did honestly forget to mention. If Selene is up and she is cursed as she is now, when you grab the seed and you see that you reveal the pad, you need to DPS Selene down, because as she is cursed, you cannot cleanse. So you need to DPS Selene down. That'll remove the curse for about I want to say 30 seconds or so, and that will make it so you can cleanse. And as you can see, my pad was on the left side. I called out left of boss. The other two people said right of boss. And so they were like, hey, go right of boss, and that is your pad that you need to cleanse on. So just because that you see a green pad does not mean that you will need to cleanse on it. Keep that in mind. So again, majority wins. Those two people seen right of boss, I seen left of boss, they win. I go right of boss. So that's how that mechanic works there. Also, if a person goes down during this fight, what will happen is their body will get wrapped up in some vines. And basically what that means is you cannot res them until you DPS the vines off of the person. I think it's actually a pretty cool mechanic. I think it's a bit annoying because if the tank dies, then you pretty much have to sit there and kite the boss for like ever, or just wipe it and then make sure that the tank doesn't die. As you can see, I dodge roll into the fire. It's a lot easier than trying to dodge roll backwards. This is actually the first time that this group has been together and doing this hard mode, and they actually did really well, and I applaud them him for even coming in here, and we actually knocked this out within I want to say probably 6 or 7 tries, maybe even 10. We was trying to trying to show them mechanics, and the way that I kind of like to show mechanics is I explain like the first about 20 seconds or so of the mechanics, and then once they get that down, then we go a bit further, and I'm like, okay, now that that happens and you understand that, here's the next part of what's going to happen, and we just try and build it up and progress further and further, and we actually did progress pretty fast and just pretty quickly how fast these guys and girl picked up the mechanics. It was actually quite awesome to see. And as you can see, he's about to charge again, and I call out dodge roll if you need to a little bit earlier, and so people just kind of get out of the way just in case that happens. Now, during this fight as a Nightblade tank, the sets that I was running, I was using the Grundolf set, which comes from the other dungeon, which is Moongroove or whatever it's called. And basically, what happens when you deal critical damage, you restore every 5 seconds. You restore 1,000 of your highest resources, and then 500 of the other one. So I have more stam than Magicka, so I will constantly, every 5 seconds, as long as I have a constant dot down, which is volley or blockade, or whatever, every 5 seconds I should theoretically be getting about 1,000 Magicka back because I have the helmet golden out, and then 500 of Magicka because that's what I have as the lower end of my resources. Now, if the cone is here, I like to call when the dodge row on the cone, and for the fire, I like to say which way to dodge row. So if the fire is coming from left to right, I like to say dodge row left. If the cone is coming straight towards me, I like to say dodge roll. If the fire is coming from right to left, I like to say dodge right. It's just to kind of help out the DPS because they're not really going to be paying attention, but they do know the directions that I'm speaking of because we already established that at the beginning, that they need to basically whichever way you're facing the dragon, that's the way we're calling out the direction. So dodge roll right, obviously here. And we'll get into, I think we get into one more seed here, and then we end up killing the boss, which this was this was actually, I think, about, we were only in this dungeon for about, I think, 30 minutes or maybe 40 minutes, and the last 20 minutes was kind of pretty much on this boss, if I remember right. I don't actually 100% remember. It might have been actually an hour in here, and then 20 minutes on this boss or something like that, just trying to explain the mechanics, making sure everybody kind of understood the direction of where the pads were and stuff like that. That's the biggest thing. And we did come into, there was probably, I think, 5 pools that we did where we were making a few mistakes or about the which pad we were going to and whatnot, but that's okay. That happens. You just need to make sure that it's clarified and good to go. So these ads that I'm taking, these little ice dudes or little whatever, you see them in DSA and Dire Frost. They don't do much damage. They're kind of just more of an annoyance than anything else. They just, I mean, these ads do actually smack the DPS pretty tough or pretty hard, excuse me. So you definitely want to try and tank those as quick as possible as soon as they spawn up. Well, hopefully this guide had helped you out with Lair of Maareslok. Hopefully I'm saying that last name right. But yeah, hopefully this helps you guys out. Hopefully you'll get to complete with this, and yeah, just kind of yeah, get it going. Appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you guys leave a thumbs up for that, and yeah, hopefully you hit that subscribe button as well, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.